can we have roll call? Corbin.
Here.
Allie. Casey.
Here.
David. Let's see, Chris. Let's see, Adrian. I see Adrian's username, so.
Yes, I'm here.
I don't see Sabrina. Aaron is absent. Suen.
Here.
Matt. Patty.
Here.
Bill.
Here.
Allison.
Here.
Samir. And Jessica is not here, but she's on her way.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's go ahead. I believe we have some folks for public comment today. Or?
Yes, so I'm just gonna go down the list. I don't see any virtual attendees, so.
Well, I will just say, as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to speak, and please don't give out any personal information because we don't want it on the internet. And I want to protect your privacy. And then if there's any follow-up, Michelle will get your information so that, or she has it, so we can. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Out of the gate. Good evening.
That's so you don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
Yes, that's for you. My name is Megan Stefik. I am a Cleveland High School parent. I am also a member of the Turf Powell Park Committee. It is a committee of parents of softball and baseball specific parents advocating for equity and safety at Cleveland High School's upcoming modernization. We're here tonight requesting turf fields, turf softball, baseball, and a multi-use field at Powell Park. For the sake of time, we'll just give you a quick idea of how it looks for softball. Softball players' home field is Woodstock Park, which is 2.5 miles from Cleveland High School. Coaches haul gear every day in the springtime, 5 days a week to the park. Students and parents struggle to arrange carpools. There is no transportation other than the city bus. There's 2 buses if students must take that bus with their gear, both their backpack and their softball gear, to get to practices and games. The field itself at Woodstock is very compact dirt. There is a dangerous lip in the transition from the dirt portion of the infield to the grass outfield. Further, it's littered with dog waste. If you know that area, it is also a dog park. And it's very common for a game to be paused with someone yelling, "Dog on the field," which is funny for about a minute, and then it gets a little tougher. We often find houseless people sleeping in the dugout or in the restrooms or the porta potties. It is uncommon for our softball players to use those restrooms, and if they really must as a last resort, they go with a parent. It's really just not a safe and welcoming environment for young females or for a competitive 6A OSAA softball program. So Cleveland High School students deserve better. They deserve to be closer to their school community, and they deserve equality in PIL athletics.
That's time.
Thank you, Megan.
Yep, all right. Good evening, Parks Bureau. Thank you for having us. My name is Liz Super, and I've lived in Southeast Portland for the last 20 years. I also am a parent of a 10th grader at Cleveland High School. What drew me to Southeast Portland, of course, was amazing park access and true connected neighborhoods that you guys have been hard at work at. But I think fast forward now to 2024, things have clearly changed, and Portland Parks, I feel, has really turned their back on families in Southeast Portland. Today, I urge you, use your system development charges to turf Powell Park and bring back the community of Southeast Portland. The design has been done for this turf by the Portland Public School Modernization Funds. The money is there. We're asking for this increase in safety and equity now. Powell Park, I think you guys may know, it's known as Tweaker Park. It sits across Highway 26, across from Cleveland, that has the smallest footprint of all PIL schools. 4 Clevelands would fit in Ida B. Wells. We have 1 turf field. From a baseball perspective, my son, who's been playing under the Cleveland baseball banner since age 4, he's used Powell Park to play baseball and practice soccer. As Megan said, there's one storage area at Powell Park that's repeatedly vandalized. So we lost a $600 generator, our pitching machine, our catcher's gear, the outfield fence that we have to put up as parents has been vandalized. We have to maintain our own grass. There's no announcer platform. There's no handicap access to bathrooms. There's no dugout. There's no working scoreboard. So despite these limitations, these are our high school students that are playing at Portland Park's fields. Our students, they continue to show up and compete, but honestly, they're embarrassed of their home field in Southeast Portland. This Turf Powell Park Committee has been formed and we have a lot of support. So not just from parents, coaches, teachers, but you may have seen that we've had 3 now news stories on Coin News and Willamette Week. So we're really asking to please Turf Powell Park now.
And I'm just gonna note that we have some online attendees. So I'm gonna let, once we're gonna go for you, and then the 2 people online, and then I'll go. Does that work?
Am I next then?
Yes, you are. Are you ready?
Yes. I'm here on behalf of Cleveland High School students, but also the feeder middle schools that lead into Cleveland High School. I work at Dornbecker Children's Hospital and have taken care of youth for my entire career. I can tell you firsthand that the patients I asked to maintain fitness typically drop out from their physical activities between middle school and high school. This is a critical time for young people that they maintain their physical fitness throughout their adolescence to maintain both mental, physical, and intellectual performance. It's well known the benefits of physical activity for all young people, humans in general of any age, but it's critical in this time that young people have the access to all forms of physical activity. I urge you to consider modernizing the facilities for all the middle schools that lead into the Southeast high schools that are undergoing the current modernization. The time is now. Youth doesn't wait for the government to catch up. Please modernize our middle schoolers so they continue to stay physically active into high school. I know all of you can count on your hands the number of families who take their children out of their neighborhoods to schools with better facilities. We need to modernize now. I want to thank you all for being here after hours. I know how hard it is to work into the evening for other people. So I want to thank you for that.
I have 2 folks attending. If you would like to give public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, Virginia, I'm gonna allow you to speak and I will be giving you 2 minutes. And if you don't hear the beeper, I might have to mute you to cut you off, just to let you know. Go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I can't see myself, so I'm not. So hi, my name's Virginia Lafort. I am a co-founder of the Grant Bowl Community Coalition, the organization that worked with Parks and PPS to facilitate the partnership for the Grant Bowl. And we're in the process now of getting ready to submit our land use application for lighting. So we're really excited and just really thrilled about how that collaboration and partnership came together. And as I was listening, watching the news and, I've heard the Turf Powell Park group from Cleveland speaking a lot at meetings lately, and it gave me some pause. I was thinking about, I obviously didn't prepare comments, but I want to throw this out there. When the turf originally was installed at Grant in 2013, Parks pitched in, significant funding for that. It was several $100,000. And it was pulled from system development charges. And I was looking at the plan that the city has for those funds, which, you know, are specifically for infrastructure that supports, you know, increased use of our parks. And noticed that there isn't any funding at all, nor has there been allocated to Powell Park. And it seems like, you know, granted, the plan was made quite a while ago, but a lot has changed in Portland over the last, you know, several years. And I would love to see the city take a look at those funds, particularly on those shared properties with PPS and parks, because I know sometimes when we talk about it, we saw this a lot during our process, we look at them both as like separate pieces of, you know, business per se, like these are students and then we've got the community, when really they're one and the same. And so I was curious to see what the city's position would be like for reallocating some of those funds to a property that clearly needs it.
Yeah, that is your time.
Thank you.
Cut you off there, but thank you. Do we have any other online public comment? No, I'm gonna take that as a no. And Ryan, would you like to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll just say that I teach at Ida B. Wells High School, and my kids have gone to Cleveland, and Wells has excellent facilities for softball. They have a hitting barn that the kids use in the off season and through the summer. And I think we all just want something equitable for our kids on the east side. I ran the Cleveland Youth softball program for several years. And I just think it would be great to have a turfed field in our neighborhood where the younger kids can come and get excited about watching the varsity kids play. The park at Westmore or at Woodstock Park is like barely functionable as a high school field. And so, you know, I'm just here to advocate for better facilities for our kids, especially our girls who have to drive. You know, last year was two upperclassmen on the team, and everybody else had to figure out ways to transport all the way from Cleveland High School over to Woodstock Park. And you know, it's an equity issue for me, and it's a safety issue in some regards too. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
It doesn't look like we have any additional speakers. I will like to make a note for those attending that if you're not ready to speak now, we do allocate the last 15 minutes of our meeting to give public comment at 5:45. And so we pause the meeting if you have more folks coming in. Oh, sorry, 6:45. I know how to do time. With that, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna move on to general announcements, but like I said, we will pause at 6:45 and we are home to stay. That goes for our online attendees as well.
And thank you, and I'm guessing park staff will follow up to the folks who are commenting today. So I really want to thank you all for coming and sharing your perspectives on the issue. Really appreciate it.
And if any of you came and didn't give Michelle your contact information, you could do that before you leave, that'd be great.
Should we sign this only if we give comments, or just for attendance also?
Your daughter doesn't.
Well, we can
We're discussing the modernization at this meeting tonight.
but we will follow up with update.
All right, I have two general updates and then I'll open it up for others. The first one is on November 20th, Coeur d'Alene's of Oregon, which is where I work, so just recognizing that, is hosting a talk on Forest Park and the Harborton project, PGE's proposal to expand their infrastructure, putting a almost 5-acre parcel of Forest Park at Risk. And in that program, they're going to talk about what the project entails, what's at stake, and how people can take action. The speakers are going to be photographer Scott Carpenter, who's an excellent speaker, by the way, and he's a wonderful person, as well as author Marcy Cottrell, who actually wrote a book on Forest Park, and she'll go into the history and deep knowledge of the park, past and present. And Scott will share, he's a photographer, the wildlife who rely on Forest Park. In addition, Bird Alliance of Oregon conservation staff and Partners Forest Park Conservancy are going to be talking about their position on the project and wrap up with a training on how to best advocate for Forest Park. So for folks, I know we've talked a lot about Harborton here, and the board has put out its own letter, but if you're interested in both Bird Alliance of Oregon and Forest Park Conservancy are neighbors of Forest Park. Well, Forest Park Conservancy is kind of like, yeah, and Bird Alliance of Oregon has 172 acre sanctuary in Forest Park. So that is an option. It will be the evening of November 20th. The second general announcement, I have some prepared remarks I wanted to share on the passing of Bob Salinger, who is a former Parks board member, and this is going to be a little hard for me to get through because Bob, I worked with him for 7 years and our offices were next to each other and we were always talking. So, and I want to say if anyone else has anything they'd like to share about Bob after, I'll open it up, no pressure, but if folks have, feels like everyone has a Bob story. Todd, I'm guessing you have a lot. So last week, Portland Parks and Recreation, the City of Portland, the State of Oregon, and the entire Pacific Flyway lost a staunch defender and advocate, the incomparable Bob Salinger. I want to take a moment to share a few things about Bob, not just a small taste of the many things he accomplished for parks, but also how he accomplished them, because the world needs more people like Bob, relentlessly and skillfully moving the needle to protect wildlife and the natural world, and increasing access to nature for all people. And there is much to learn from his legacy. For those who may not have had the privilege of working with Bob or the challenge of being on the opposite side of an issue from him, here are just a few ways that Bob contributed to parks. Bob helped shape the original tree code and continued working to increase Portland's tree canopy until the end because he knew what trees mean to both people and wildlife, especially on the urban landscape. He helped secure hundreds of millions of dollars in funds for parks through bonds and levies. Bob put in the work to help direct SDC's system development charges towards growing the city's park system, especially in East Portland. He was there to work with park staff to consult and advocate on wildlife stewardship, wildlife management, and to reduce wildlife hazards. Like us, he served on the Parks Board because Bob knew a truth about how our system works. Many of the most important decisions and policies aren't born from last-minute advocacy. They come from sifting through budgets, sitting on committees, developing relationships, and ensuring that environmental policies are built into the fabric of a thing from the beginning. Some might say it's the boring work. It's the stuff that often takes years to get done, but once it's built into the DNA of the city, but once it's there, it's built into the DNA of the city. And Bob's fingerprints are all over Portland's DNA, and we're better for it. Of course, Bob would activate the community to testify, submit comments, and rise up if needed. But many of his successes were quieter because he knew how to work inside a system that often feels like it's made to keep people out. There was no chance of ever keeping Bob out. He demanded transparency and public engagement from our government, full stop. On a personal note, I'm lucky to be one of the many people Bob mentored over the years. We worked side by side at Bird Alliance of Oregon, the place he spent the bulk of his career. Most of what I know about advocacy comes from working alongside him and the wisdom he shared with me. Unlike many environmentalists, Bob not only cared about wildlife at a species level, he cared about the individual animals. And I want people to know that because that's a foundational part of what drove him. He also saw systems as interconnected and thought about environmental issues through many different lenses. And I know many people, including me, are talking about Bob's accomplishments, but if you never got to know him, you should also know he was funny, irreverent, relentless, charismatic, and both a total hard ass and an immense softie. He had animals galore, goats, chickens, a kind of feral dog, an old cat, and he wore the same sports coat, old and like sometimes old, to official meetings for years. He loved his wife and his 3 kids more than anything in the world, there's a hole in Oregon's environmental movement and in the lives of the people he cared about him. And we all need to work together to ensure we protect and continue Bob's legacy. Thank you for letting me share that. And if anyone wants to say anything.
I will say that we Parks put out quite a bit of a nice social media piece. So check your feeds. There were some nice words that were shared by a few of our staff members who've worked with Bob for many years. So I just want to give appreciation to our staff for, I mean, like you said, a lot of people have sort of come forward and given words. But it was really nice to be able to quote a few of the staff members who really worked closely with him. So, and thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Michelle, if you have that link, could you drop that in the chat of the Parks post on Bob? That would be great.
Does anyone want to share any words online about Bob? Okay.
And Metro is doing a thing on Thursday if anyone's interested, opening it up for people to share. Bob also secured did a lot with Metro. He did a lot everywhere. He had his hands in everything. Like there's nothing that, I mean, the amount that he did is kind of unfathomable. So thank you for giving this space. Any other general announcements?
On October 24th, I went to the last session of the Harpenden PGE community engagement at the Linton Community Center. It's kind of dovetail what you just so well articulated with Bob's personality and vision. I would really encourage, we as board, we have a letter, but I'm hoping that anyone else find a way to voice up. I felt that as a fellow citizen, I witnessed the community members, mostly are residents in the area. They are not really having the identity as experts, yet there's a panel of experts. And I felt that when you are on the other side of the table as community members, there's a bit of a disadvantage that you don't really have that kind of authoritative kind of information, page after page, bullet point after bullet point. You go there with your gut feeling. You go there with your passion and emotion. And it's harder to really understand how that presence is actually justifiable to so-called strong enough to change the experts' minds. And but I don't know what else we could do. It was a bit discouraging. It felt like, and maybe Bob's spirit, just be a good fighter and go out there and demand answers. Because I think it's a hard battle to fight. Even if it's just for that little frog. I think it's worth speaking up. And I hope everybody else would be inspired by Bob and just say, step up and speak up. And maybe there is a collective voice. It's not just a several acres out of a big swath of park. It's the principle of what else do we have to cut back for the convenience of maybe lack creativity to look for alternative win-win solutions. That's what I like to share. The other thing is I was at Monday's Veteran Days event at Oregon Rail Heritage Center. And again, I always been amazed how much Portland Parks actually got their responsibility in a lot of areas that are not about just trees, but also land that we actually enjoy and take it for granted. And I have the pleasure to meet with our very passionate staff, Steve Pixley. What a wonderful gentleman who's a parks volunteer coordinator, and he had his parks jacket and his cap, and I approached him and learned a lot from him, and he's been with this role at the Oregon Rail Heritage Center for 25 years. And that speaks so loud with reinforcing the phrase, once a Parkie, you're always a Parkie, and he speaks with such pride in just trying to help out. Kudos to Parks, thank you. And then he mentioned that we should probably find a way to arrange a board tour of the Rail Heritage Center, just to learn what we do as parks at this amazing museum. Thank you.
All right, any other general announcements? We have 2 months of meeting minutes to approve, so we are going to do them one at a time. If you weren't present for either September, October, please abstain from the one you were not in attendance for. Do I have a motion to accept the September meeting minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Great, okay. Motion.
I'll vote.
Oh, sorry. I don't usually do this, I'm not the chair.
Please raise your hand for approval for the September meeting minutes. And then I believe,
Dr. Corbin's probably abstaining.
yeah, Dr. Corbin.
Well, September, I think.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
It
sorry,
was-
okay,
okay.
October,
It was just a
yes.
delayed hand.
Okay, good.
So yes for September, no for October for me.
Yeah.
You're abstaining for October, right?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, I have Samir, I think I have Samir abstaining for September. Yeah,
Okay. And
okay, now October.
great, October, do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, and all in favor?
Corbin is the only abstaining.
What about
I'm
Bill?
abstaining.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, we had like 4 people missing at the last board
That's
meeting.
Yeah, I'm abstaining as well. I wasn't present.
Anyone else abstaining?
I think that's it.
All right. Great, and we shall move on to the director's report. Director Long.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry that I was unable to join you all last month, and thank you to Todd and others for carrying the water. It was a full month of professional industry conferences for us. We had both the Oregon Recreation Parks Association and the National Recreation Parks Association conferences. And we had a great turnout. We had 55 attendees and a total of 13 presenters at collectively for both conferences. So that was really exciting. And also we received 2 awards. Dave Oburn received sort of, I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically like the Lifetime Achievement Award for Oregon Recreation Parks Association. He's a capital project manager. And then the Native Gathering Garden at Cully Park also received an award. So that was really nice to be able to accept that on behalf of our team. And so I think the award's sitting on Tanya's desk. Also, I just wanted to talk a little bit about budget. So in October, we received additional mayoral budget guidance that frankly wasn't all that surprising. It asked the bureaus create scenarios for both a 5% and an 8% general fund cut for fiscal year 25-26. Given the financial outlook that you all learned over the last few months and the uncertainty around when, if, and at what rate the parks levy will be renewed, these deep reductions will not be that surprising. So I just wanted to say that. And that being said, on November 20th, a resolution will be brought to council that directs our bureau to prepare a resolution for city council to consider in January of 2025 to refer a 5-year local option tax levy for the May 2025 general election to fund parks. So DCA Szymanski and I will be presenting, and while there'll be no opportunities for invited testimony, as you all know, city council proceedings are open to the public, and so if folks want to attend or view, always welcome. And I want to thank Todd and Sarah Huggins for their work in preparing the materials for that. Want to add anything?
You got it.
All right, cool. Also coming to council, actually tomorrow, yes, did you have your hand up? Oh, also coming to council tomorrow actually is the large tree amendment and the amendment of a contract with Northwest Success to add funds for a janitorial contract. Next week, also on the 20th, in addition to the Parks Levy resolution, Portland Parks and Recreation will propose that council declare 3.4 acres at Washington Park. It is the site formerly used by the Portland Children's Museum as surplus property, and authorize the Bureau to dispose of the property to Metro. So that's going to be also on the docket on the 20th, very busy city council day. Yep, you have a question?
Do you know what Metro's plans? I just wonder what Metro's plans are for the property.
I think it's been moved back to December 4th.
Oh, got moved? Sorry. Okay, never mind. It
It's
got
the
moved to
last
December 4th, but it's still happening. Metro will be demolishing the building and then building a new building. Their intent is to move their administrative functions that are currently in their current campus to the new building to allow for zoo specific education, animal care, et cetera, functions to occur at their main campus. And as a part of the agreement, we've written in some office space and parking spaces for staff who currently work in Washington Park. We have a major shortage of office space, so kudos to our property team for that. And really excited to know that that building won't just continue to remain there stagnant.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, Casey?
Sorry, I gotta back you up on the levy
Yep.
referral. Is the levy rate stated in that or not? All right, so that's just open for later.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
I have a very similar question. Is the levy timeline stated in the November resolution?
Well, we just need to bring the resolution to the new council in January, and then it'll be up to them to decide what the rate would be, if they want to approve it, if they want to have it go in May, if they want to delay it to a future election. This council is just going to be on the record telling us that we should educate the new council in January about their options.
Okay.
Not predetermining any route, but making sure we're ready, because there's a lot of just like detailed work that we need to do in advance to even be ready for the new council to make a decision if they want to in January.
All right. Also on the docket is the approval of a tree planting. Oh no, that one got moved to the RFP, sorry. Updates to Title 20 that this group had previously.
Are you talking about the RF treatment?
Yeah, that's.
It's actually on time.
No.
Excited.
Things have changed in the last hour, Michelle.
It's good to know.
So updates to Title 20, which this group has reviewed and received updates on. as well as various charter reform related city code updates that essentially incorporate the city administrator as the primary executive authority. So where in the past, a lot of our codes refer to a commissioner in charge, they'll be changing the language. And speaking of charter reform, Portland Parks and Recreation was thrilled to host Mayor-elect Wilson for his first press conference at the Charles Jordan Community Center last week. Just a reminder that as of today, the presumptive new slate of city councilors remains just that, presumptive. We're all very eager to learn which 3 Portlanders will represent each of Portland's 4 new geographic districts. And while some candidates currently hold significant leads, other seats are too close to call. Multnomah County will finish counting the ballots on December 2nd. So we will have, that's when all of the election results get certified. But that doesn't mean that we're waiting to plan for their arrival. There's a very extensive onboarding and orientation planned for the incoming councilors that starts in December and continues into 2025. In particular, the Vibrant Communities Service Area will be doing a work session on January 16th and a land tour on January 17th. So that the content of those 2 actions and the routes are currently in development, and we're really excited to share what the service area and Portland Parks and Recreation is all about. In the meantime, we've been asking staff, and now I'm asking you as the advisory board, to refrain from communicating about parks and city business with any of the candidates, at least for now, because we want to make sure that they go through the onboarding and the orientation, and wait until they're all official. Right.
So we can go out from what day?
Well, I think the election,
When we get
will
sworn
be
in?
called on December 3rd, right? That's when they certify the election results. And like I said, we're working on an orientation and a land tour for mid-January. And you know, I think we'll have to have continued conversations about how we interact with the council and how this board interacts with the council. I know that the foundation is also looking at how they're going to sort of introduce themselves to incoming council members, and we've been in contact to make sure that we're not too redundant and that we're complementary in that work.
I was gonna say something similar, that we will have a conversation as a board on how we want to introduce ourselves to the new council, and then what steps we may want to take. Sort of coordinating, understanding what Parks is doing so that we can be additive.
Do you want to do that in the back, or do you want it in the Board of Affairs Working Group, or do you want to do it here? I mean, because when I saw this in Pater, my thinking is how do you educate, we advocate, you know, and so I want to know when we can, you know, move and how best, so we're not jumping over each other. So I don't know if you want to do it in December at the board meeting, or if you want to have the Board of Affairs Working Group take a look at it, however we can move this forward.
I think it would probably be good in Board Affairs first,
And then Board
before
Affairs
we
and
then bring it
recommendations
to and we may have working groups also talk about their specific, you know, we'll see, but
Okay.
yeah. Corbin's back now, and I want her to be a part of the conversation, how we move this forward. So.
Thanks.
It'll be good to try to land it for the December meeting, because we'll be developing all the content kind of by January 1st, so not waiting to the January meeting.
Will we get to see some of the content, or at least an overview
I
of the
think by
content
the
you guys
next
present?
meeting, we should be able to provide like an update, and then we'll also know like how much community members or the boards could participate on the January 16th or 17th as well. So we're still learning about that, because all the service areas are doing this, so yeah.
So every week there'll be.
Yeah.
And we only have so much time, right? So it's like 2.5 hours for the work session, and it's a full day for the tour, but so that the council isn't in a quorum. It's 2 different buses, 2 different tours. It's very complicated.
we have Corbin with her hand up?
Yes.
My suggestion is that for during the working group meetings that are happening this month, that maybe coming up with a couple of bullet points that you want to communicate and bring it to the BAWG might be a good step.
And I'll also add that I think that the Bob was putting together an annual report for the board. That might be a good vehicle.
Yes, I think that's a good vehicle, but I think it's also important for the working groups to maybe prioritize or put forward some of the things that they want to make sure that gets highlighted in the annual report.
Thank you, Corbin. Director Long?
I have nothing else. I hope everyone read the report.
Good picture, of Michelle. You have a picture of in pay dirt.
Oh, no.
Right there.
Okay, then we are moving on to the working group reports. So anything Board Affairs Working Group wants to say?
I don't know. I wasn't there. Sorry. Corbin, I don't know if you had anything or anybody else.
Corbin didn't attend.
Okay.
It's just a small group of us.
Sorry.
Land use and infrastructure. David's not, is David here?
Yeah. Just like-
Oh, yes, there you are.
I don't have anything.
Financial sustainability,
There was no meeting in October.
community engagement. Sabrina's not here. Anyone who was there? Was anything, I mean, it's,
Or was it just?
I wasn't even make it.
I don't think we canceled, we canceled it because.
I think it was canceled, yeah, because there was not
Not
many
enough
board
people,
members
that's right.
and the staff
Right.
liaison was on vacation.
apparently October is stuff.
Yeah.
October stuff. So, all right, sorry. Then we will move on to the Portland Parks Foundation report. Could we?
Just following up kind of on the candidate stuff, we did the candidate survey and actually got over 60 responses. If you haven't looked at them, they're very interesting. And I think there's some little juicy nuggets in there around the levy and public-private partnerships. Most of the candidates who are in the forefront at the moment all responded. And so it's also kind of just good information. So I think that there's some good intel there to kind of develop the next set of questions. Thank you, board, for helping with that. That's on our website, on our blog. I guess, Michelle, I can share that link with you. And we have our summit tomorrow, so hope some of you are there. I get to go meet Allison Desir after this meeting for a little pre-keynote conversation, which is very exciting. And then just you all will be invited. December 2nd is the launch of our collaborative artwork of the Thompson Elk Fountain. 2 local artists who are represented by Leach Gallery. So it's kind of this really lovely intersection of art and parks. And there'll be a release of the prints at the Leach Gallery on December 2nd. So I encourage you all to come and participate in that. It's a nice, just kind of lovely, fun evening hosted by the Leach Gallery. And it's a beautiful print and there's only 50 of them. So if you're interested, be there. And then I kind of deep within the notes that were there, I think Director Long mentioned this about just the community initiated fundraising process that the city is launching. And it's kind of an interesting, transparent process, and it'll be kind of, I'm curious how we roll it out and how the friends groups see it.
Well, we're briefing DCA Szymanski on it next week, Tuesday. And my understanding is that we're ready to go, like on the back end, the webpage, the forms, everything has been built out, so.
Yeah, it looks nice on the site.
Yeah, so we're hoping to press go.
So I don't know if we've talked about that in this group, but it is a new
Well,
thing
it
that's
came to
community
the-
facing?
I feel like it came to one of
It
the
came to community engagement.
community engagement.
Okay.
And we're bringing it to the board next month.
Okay, great.
December, next month.
And I'm speaking out of turn.
No, it's fine. You gave a little preview.
Yeah, and what else? I mean, we're just deep in end of year fundraising. It's very fun. And there are definitely a group of local parks advocates who are chomping at the bits to do their own community tours with the council members. So they're kind of coordinating that. We'll see where they go. We're just sort of supporting, but I would say that all of the friends and partners of the local parks are very excited to host council members and have conversations and get them like, so in terms of the tours, I know they're all excited. We'll see where that goes, but Portland Parks Foundation is a little removed from it. And on the playground side of things, George Park is moving forward. We have a PAC decided, which is exciting, and that starts to meet next week. The kids outside are leading effort on that. And I would say the question that keeps getting raised in some of the like individual fundraising, and I think also is just in terms of donor recognition. And I know this has come up in parks, but I'm kind of wondering if there's anybody here that would like to talk about creative ways to think about donor recognition on like private public partnerships. Because I think it's always a question, and we have donors asking it all the time of like, oh, what are some ways if I'm donating to a playground, how I might get involved in donor recognition? So, and I've heard it through some of our partner groups too, as they're doing fundraising, like, oh, what are some creative ways to do donor recognition? So it's kind of this opportunity to have a little bit of brainstorming around that.
I'm happy to brainstorm on that. I'm also very interested in like the ethics around naming and all
Yeah.
those conversations, and if Parks Foundation has a policy on that, or if that's, I know a lot of organizations are thinking about that. So how do you recognize donors, and also like, I don't know, do you have an ethics clause? Like, how do you move those things forward? So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of this opportunity to maybe corral some like of the local groups who are having that same question, and then to think about it internally in our organizations, and then like how we work together with parks to offer some opportunities that are, you know, kind of within the ethics of it and don't go into necessarily naming rights, but it's a thing that donors really like. And there was one organization that was just talking to us that they had they had donors with a lot of net worth that were coming through Oregon Community Foundation who were interested in potential naming opportunities. And so it's just, how do we guide them in a way that feels good for all sides? Because it's kind of money on the table, an investment in our parks.
Director Wong.
So we as a service area are having a pretty broad conversation right now around partnerships. And Todd's sort of championing that work, but it's very much about parks, but it's also gonna, you know, it's vibrant communities, but we're talking quite a bit about parks. And one of those areas is to talk about potential corporate sponsorships and naming opportunities. I wasn't thinking so much about like donor acknowledgements for smaller donations. We were thinking about some larger facilities that are either currently being built or planned, like future improvements. So I think that we should roll that conversation into this conversation and have it once, because we're talking about partnerships at every level, like from volunteers all the way, you know, so.
Yeah, I just think that there's some opportunity if we can have more like concrete, tangible, like this is some ways we can do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of concerns, obviously, about using the public realm to acknowledge folks. And questions about perpetuity and I think we went through that with the benches, right?
Yeah.
And we had to sort of pivot because things change, so and I think the internet has also made it, and social media, like there's so many other avenues in which folks can be acknowledged. So
Well, let's talk.
all right. Dot.
Yeah.
I can maybe share a little of a variety of ways to do this that may shed some ideas. I've done a lot of donor recognitions, dealing with a lot of different way of looking at what's done appropriately. I don't want to say right or wrong, it's just appropriately. And can add my name to your chat box.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about some creative ideas, because I feel like I'm just kind of going into that dead space, and it would be nice to get some other creative minds thinking about it. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Jessica?
Corbin has.
Oh, sorry, Corbin.
Just putting in my 2 cents here regarding donor recognition is thinking through virtual reality, so VR, where their names or their information can be available to recognize their donations, but it doesn't create a situation where we have a bunch of logos or a media within our park system at the same time. So just throwing that out there.
Just one example, it was kind of a nice thing. You think about donor names, but sometimes providing donors the option to a donor gave to Bird Alliance for 2 yurts and, named the yurt Chickadee and Flicker. So it doesn't always have to be the name of a person, but it can also be something that's meaningful to them, that's relevant to the land, the habitat, or whatever. So there are different ways to engage donors' heart spaces without having necessarily their actual name.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just introduce the next item. We have Jamie Sandness and Maximo here today to Craig's with us too, great. To give an update on the access discount and Project Connect. So I don't know who's taking it away.
I'll be driving the presentation.
You want to intro?
Sure, I can start us off by saying, as you've probably all been hearing in kind of report outs and briefings, Recreation's work, both providing services and programs to the community, as well as our efforts to fulfill levy commitments from our existing parks operational levy, which includes, but is not limited to, providing recreation programming and services to communities throughout Portland, and removing financial barriers for low-income households, and ending our dependency on earned revenue in order to allow for a kind of equity-focused delivery of community events and programs, and really prioritizing communities of color, households experiencing poverty, including equity-centered engagement and outreach, community partnerships, and increased engagement with volunteers and partner groups. And so there's been a lot of work and a lot of efforts, and we've learned over time as we've been doing this work, and we've been applying a lot of feedback from the engagement we have, both hearing from staff, hearing from communities, hearing from partners that we work with. And so our Project Connect program kind of highlights kind of that work that's taking place to date. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Jamie Sandness, the manager of our Recreation Support Systems team, and our teams to kind of share some of that information.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here tonight. I'm the support systems manager for the recreation division. I use she, her pronouns. We are very excited about the Project Connect initiative and the way that it brings community together with services. Craig's gonna start us off and share some information about the Access Discount, which is the program that provides financial assistance and reduces cost as a barrier to Portlanders. And so he'll walk us through some slides and some information about the usage of that program, and then we'll transition to talking a little bit more about the Project Connect initiatives and the different pieces of how that can help connect community. So I'll pass it over to Craig.
Hey y'all, my name's Craig, he, him pronouns. I work with Jamie, and I'll just walk you through these slides. If you have any questions, I kind of put the numbers together, so I know a little bit around the background. So first up, just wanted to share out on this first slide, the next slide, access discount holders in general. This is the last 2 fiscal years, and you'll see that our growth has kind of started to match just general growth of our programs overall. So we had that sort of big spike as we introduced the program and went from pilot phase to rolling it out to everyone. And now we're starting to see this sort of level off. So you can see from the end of summer 23 to the end of summer 24, that's kind of 1 fiscal year's look. That percentage went up the same as the percentage of unique users that we saw overall. So that is good news. So we're starting to level off. We also wanted to show out on the left-hand side there, that's fiscal year 23-24's usage broken up a little differently than it's seen normally. At the top there is drop-in use. That's just one time come in and use a facility. The next one down there is summer registered camps and classes only. We wanted to call out summer because it's such a heavy usage time. And you can see there, the next one down is the rest of registered classes over the rest of the fiscal year, and they almost match. So summertime, we're seeing heavy usage as we expect for camps and swim especially. And then that bottom one there, the 1.5 million, that's our memberships. So that includes the initial sign up for memberships and then the monthly rollover where the discount is continued to apply month over month. So the smaller one there on the right hand side, this is just a peek at what we've started to see this year. So we've been able to wrap the numbers on summer for fiscal year 24, and then also some of our school year programs have started to especially like preschool and after school have started to take in their registrations and thus also the access discount use. For fiscal year 24-25, our big increase is actually in memberships. So lots of folks are seeing the value of the access discount and having a membership to use the facility on a day-to-day basis. So that would be like drop-in fitness, the swim, like laps or open swim, maybe drop-in basketball, volleyball, pickleball, those kinds of things. For the next one here, we continue to see the reported income be well within what our old scholarship standards would have been. This is all self-reported, and all of the folks utilizing this self-report where they are along with their the size of their family, and through that we just kind of monitor where we're at. We don't require any sort of paperwork for folks to get an access discount, but we're not seeing anything too out of whack on this either. And then our last slide here is what we call PREP. It's our Portland Race and Ethnicity Project. And we track how folks identify racially or ethnically, not only in this program, but also across our registered usage. We don't really have a set goal that we're going for, just more monitoring so that we know who we are and are not serving in our community. That's kind of our quick rundown. If anyone has any questions, or I'll turn it back over to Jamie.
Thanks. Thank you for that. The question I've got for you is that I appreciate the graph that shows that there is an increase in usage of the access discount program. Do you know how that translates into actually increasing the use of overall recreational programs? Do you see what I'm saying? If the access discount program was actually fostering an increase in overall recreation programs?
Off the top of my head, we don't have a lot of solid ways to put that together. One of the things we do track that we didn't show in any of our slides here is how many of our folks are signing up for an access discount while they're also signing up for their account for the first time, which would indicate that their usage of our programs were possibly connected to that access discount. And so we do track that and see a pretty steady percentage term over term of folks doing that. And so that is usually about 25% of the folks who are getting an access discount, they're signing up for the first time. That kind of fluctuates, but we do track that as sort of anecdotal evidence towards that. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Amir?
Go back 2 slides, please. So just for my understanding, is the $4 million, is that best understood as revenue that would have been received if a participant in this was paying full price?
I can take that one, Craig.
Cool.
Okay. So because what the access discount does is reduces cost as a barrier, you can't make an assumption that someone would have paid full price to take that spot.
Oh, sure.
So it isn't something that if you took away access discount, you would be filling that hole with dollars, right? People are getting access to this program now that they can actually afford to get into it, and otherwise that space would maybe not have been taken.
Yeah, didn't mean to imply
Yeah.
anything of that nature. Yeah, do you know how much it costs to administer this program?
Like outside of the deferred dollars or just in general for tracking and those kind of things?
Tracking, verification, you said there's no paperwork, but
Like staff time.
That's so individuals can sign up online by themselves, so they don't need staff time necessarily to set up their account online or to get the discount, and then it applies in their transaction, so that can happen without any staff time. They can also call us, they can come into our centers, which does use staff time. They may need language access or interpretive services in order to complete those steps. So there is the act of signing up, but our previous scholarship process was a much more involved process with a lot of steps, a lot of staff time, and a lot of delay in the amount of time it would take from when someone expressed interest in participating in something and submitting an application and the review process and then the approval process and then the registration process. And with this model, individuals can take that action and just basically move through our normal registration process with one additional step of getting the discount applied to their account.
okay, and then maybe last question. The implication I was trying to make was the opposite. I'm trying to understand how much money it would cost to just make it free. If in that hypothetical situation where there was no full price for any.
So a lot of the activities that are being participated in are, their fee is set at sort of a rate that would recover the cost of instruction and supplies and sort of the direct cost of teaching that class. If we were to just make that free, then whatever portion of the people in that class that were paying would no longer be paying. So it would cost us quite a bit more to make things free.
Right, yeah, and if you happen to have a rough estimate on that, or with or without classes.
I mean, it's the amount of revenue we
Yeah, that's like
generate,
whatever our revenue is.
many millions of dollars.
I guess not, so think of the classes, but thanks.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a lot of this is particularly for registered classes, there's 10 slots in a class. There could be 2 people that have used access discount, there could be 8. And the remaining folks who are participating have paid, maybe they paid the 75% instead of the, the 10%, or they paid the full rate. When it comes to a drop-in activity, it's a little less particular because you have a larger capacity in the gym or in the open play swim. And so some people paid full price, some people used the discount, and it's not the same set number of individuals. So you can sort of make more space for free drop-in in a larger program than you can in a registered activity.
Right, okay, thank you.
Craig, do you have, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, overall, I can say that it's about 25% of our users are utilizing the access discount overall. So 75% of our users are interacting with us at a full price, whatever it's posted at.
Do you have the revenue target for like recreation for this fiscal year offhand?
I don't know.
I'll check. I was gonna say, is it maybe in 14 million
I was gonna
range?
say 15 million.
15? Yeah, in that range. So
And that includes both drop-in fees and classes.
like total revenue.
Total revenue, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the total recreation budget this fiscal year.
48 million?
48-ish, yeah, so.
That's
If
good.
if that's help, if that's the road you're going down of like total cost, 48 million. Round numbers, about a third of it is collected in fees. You know, 4 million is being foregone on the scholarship program. Parks levy and general fund is covering the balance.
Yeah, and I know we were talking about like the staff time, and so as Jamie and Craig mentioned that like for engagement for all of our registrations, regardless of how people opt into the discount program, is also the same way. They can register online, they could call us on the phone, they come into the center, and so we kind of have that kind of intake infrastructure in place already, regardless of how they're stepping in to that process. And so the access discount is just another opportunity they have to like say, oh, I want to be able to sign up for this. And as I mentioned, once they, it's every year that program has to be renewed in there, but then as they set up their amount of discount that they want to apply for next year, it's automatically applied again for whatever they register for, whether they're coming in person, registering online, or calling on the phone.
Hey Craig, just FYI, your earbuds, the mic on it is extremely effective. And so it's picking up a lot of noise. I don't know if you want to shift or maybe you just have to not move during this entire meeting. So that we don't hear anything. I just wanna let you know. Yeah. You're not talking. Yeah.
Your earbuds were.
Yeah.
Suen, and then Casey, is that a legacy or is that new?
That's new.
Okay,
Sorry.
so Suen,
Can
and
we
then
actually hold questions till the end so we can get through the presentation?
Yeah, so well, I think it's fine. The next slide is the Project Connect outreach stuff. So if you wanna focus on the access discount for now, then that works just fine.
We're actually doing really well on time.
Yeah, we're good.
So,
yeah.
There's really just one more slide that has a lot of meat in it.
Okay.
And Suen, Casey, and then Samir.
I guess it's a web of different questions here. So you just mentioned about 25% user are in the this discount. Is that being capped, or do you envision to be able to expand? Is it based on, is this like a so-called, if someone say, I would like to have this, then you don't have any question, you say, yes, we will give you this. And then is there some kind of basis, and if there are more people want to have this access, is it just like, yeah, sure, we can make it work? And then the other question is, how do, so when let's say a family has that access pass, is it automatically expected that it will continue for years to come, or do they say in 3 years, like, you know what, we can afford to actually pay something? How do you track that kind of performance? And I guess ultimately I want to know, how can we measure the value of what is it that we're measuring that we say, yes, let's hit it to 35, not 25, or how does that kind of reflect how our community and in what way we can best kind of serve them in the most kind of effective way. So those are the things that it seems like they all blended together.
Yes. So there is not a cap in place, and it is up to an individual to opt in the way that it is set up right now. So you can choose a 25, 50, 75, or 90% discount. Each individual can make that choice for themselves as to how that reduces
It's an honor
cost.
code system.
It's an honor code system. We ask everyone who signs up to self-report their household income and the number of individuals in the household so that we can have some sort of tracking about who's
Is
using.
there a card that's different colors
No.
right away, or it's a blind thing? No one will
It's
see that.
not really like it just sort of folds in like another one of our pass options. So doesn't like distinctly, you don't like have a
It's
different
not
colored card.
it's not identifiable
Right.
on a card that you're not paying full amount. That's-
The discount is good for 12 months. And so after that 12-month period, you would need to sign up again. So it is a newer program, and so we have just sort of started to see what a repeat system looks like. So at the very beginning, it was a big scale up as we were informing people about it, and so there was a lot of growth on that first slide of going like straight up. We got to like 20,000 people. And then in that next period of time, there's cycle, there's people whose passes have expired and didn't come back in, and there's new people who've come in, and now the increase is a much slower increase, and we went from 21 to 23,000 people. And so it's a lot steadier of an increase. But at the moment, there is not a cap on that system for acquiring the discount. The discount goes onto your account, and then when you complete a transaction with us, the discount applies. So that might be you come in and decide to buy a day pass to go swimming. So it's normally $5. You have a 90% access pass, it's gonna charge you 50 cents instead when you come swimming that day. But you didn't have to give them your access pass. The system knew when they put your name in that it's on your account, and it just showed you owe 50 cents to come in today. Or when you register for a class or get into a swim lesson, then that discount is applied. So it's not an unlimited amount of service. You still have to come in, and there has to be space to get in the pool that day, or there has to be space in the class that you want to register for in order for the discount to be applied during the transaction. So that's kind of the limiting factor. Like, everybody can get a discount, and then you have to choose the activity that you want to participate in and have access to participate within the capacity of that program.
This program, the software,
Mhm.
has a fee. Approximately to pay for the sophistication of tracking and all that.
We utilize our registration system for it. So it's we've used what we normally do for a membership. So if you were gonna become a pass holder at Southwest Community Center, we've used that same function to create a 25% discount pass and a 50% discount pass. So it works within our existing system, so we're not paying for any additional software for it.
And I don't think anybody who utilizes the system would refer to it as sophisticated.
So it doesn't it lasts for 12 months and then it ends. We do have an auto notification system that reminds people that it will end in a month so that they are reminded to take action if they would like to. But they have to choose to come in, visit us, call us, or go online to set it up again. You also asked where we're trying to get to. We don't know. So like Craig mentioned, approximately 25-26% of users have an access discount or have used that over a period of time. Some of the decisions we have to make are how we fee things and how we don't. And if the more we fee things, the more people will use this, and the lower the fees are, potentially the less people will use this. So it's sort of mixed in with a lot of other decision points. So at the moment, we're kind of tracking its behavior versus trying to set a percentage or a number that we're aiming for.
I mean, the general spirit is we're trying to remove cost as a barrier, we
Right.
said at the beginning, for the services we offer.
Yes.
And there are many people who come in who still pay full cost.
Do people have the option to also go over, pay more than full?
Donate.
Technically, yes, but we don't really push it
Yeah.
yet.
And we've tried before and very little uptake.
Is that what?
Yeah. All right, Casey.
This might be a variation of that last question. For the programs and services where the access discount was applied, was there a staffing strain, or did you have to have new employees come in to help with those programs?
Well, the program delivery is funded in a different way. So we have the budget in each program to spend to deliver services.
Right.
And so that budget determines how much service exists. And then it is really the ability to either the line is too long and you don't get in to swim today, so you're not gonna use your discount because you can't get in, or the class for swim lessons is full and there's a wait list to get on.
Do you know if you had to do that often though, in those programs? In terms of refuse access for people in general because too many people are using it?
Well, and I could maybe jump in, like, so with one of the things that we've evolved with the program, as we've heard both from staff, from participants, as well as from the community partners that we work with, is that as you're hearing, like when you register for a program, that's like, there's actual time intensive piece of like going through the process and registering. And for anybody, when our programs open for a new quarter, that everybody's vying for spots sometimes to there. And so what we've been working on, and Jamie and Craig can kind of clarify the actual process, but we're actually trying to make sure we're not we're not having people compete for that time at the same time of informing them about the access discount at the same time they're trying to register for a program. And so we've been really moving, we've been making intentional efforts to like engage with the community, engage with community partners, informing them about the discount program. And so that way they could go ahead and sign up for that and have that ready to go. So then they could step into the registration process whenever that opens and be all ready with that information, which could, take, sometimes 10, 15 minutes sometimes to kind of go through that process, of which is vital real estate time when they're, the spots are going for a new session that's opening. And so we want people to be very successful when they go into that process by having the access discount program already in place and ready to activate when they step into the registration program.
I would say that we have not, the same programs that are high demand and hard to get into are the same programs that are high demand and hard to get into. So swimming lessons, specialized arts programs, the hikes and the walks and the trips and like those kinds of things that were hard to get into before are hard to now. But Sue-Ann, to your other question, which was like, is it who's participating, reflecting the community? Part of the goal and what we're going to talk about next with the Project Connect is bringing education to community that hasn't had access and been able to get to services so that they know how and that they're educated how. And that has a lot more to do with our registration functions and knowing how to get through them and being able to actually be successful at getting through them. So if you don't have an account and you don't have a discount and you get in line to register on registration day, it's all gone before somebody who's helped walked you through the steps of setting up your account, choosing your discount, and then going to look for a swim lesson, it's gone. No matter how many hours you stood in line beforehand to be first in line, the swim lessons will be gone before then. So we are working really hard to get the information into community about how to be ready for that. If swim lessons is what your community is interested in, let us come out and get your community account set up, let them choose their discounts, we can show them how to register, we can show them where to register. And so we're doing a lot more education of community on how to get to the services. There is a limited amount of capacity in our pools and the number of people who can be in them at one time. But our hope is that we can help community all know how to be as equally able to get into that opportunity.
And the registration windows open by session, pretty much by clockwork, but you can step in at any time and set up an account, access discount at any time, so.
Samir?
Yeah, so because we're good on time, I'm gonna follow up on the previous question about that revenue target of 15 million. Do we know what percentage roughly of that is drop-in versus classes?
We do, but I don't know it now. We can get
I
it
don't
to
think we
you.
can tell you now, but we
can
can
get
find
it
out.
for you for sure.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, when I applied for the Parks Board, I brought up wanting to find a way to make drop-ins free and see what are the barriers in place to that and how can Parks Board members be advocates for that, for the funding necessary.
And I think that's one thing we're not talking about, right? So there's focus on the registration program, but we have free programs and partners that also get space rentals for free that run programs. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Why don't we
Are we ready to transition to how we're informing community and the other ways we connect? Okay, let's do that. I will, before we fully transition, I don't know about the revenue, but as far as participants and the people who are coming into our buildings, for what we can track, about 60% is now drop-in participation and 40% is registered. But that does not necessarily line up with the percentage of what we spend on expenses or what we bring in revenue. But for participation, it's about 60% drop-in, 40% registered. Okay, so the last content slide there. I'm actually, Maximo, would you help me out and share some folders? Maybe with our park staff last.
We shared these virtually, but if you would like.
So there are, this packet information was included before, but here's a nice hard copy if you would like to have that or to share it with others later.
This is the last 3 pages of the.
Yeah, we're sending.
So inside is a half sheet flyer on Project Connect, and on the back has a little overview of the variety of different components of that initiative. And so that's sort of what I'm gonna talk through here today and sort of go through. What I wanted to start with first is in the previous fiscal year, Recreation was awarded one-time funding to pilot some outreach activities. And so some of that funding went to outreach agreements, which are small $5,000 agreements offered to community organizations as compensation. And they agree in return to share information about recreation services with their community and connect their community to our services. And so those agreements went into effect in May 1st of the previous fiscal year, and they will go through April of this year. And so there are 14 organizations that have, they applied, they were reviewed and were selected. Those 14 organizations will earn $5,000 over the course of the year and have 12 months to connect their community. We meet with them each quarter. They submit a tracking sheet showing social media posts, newsletter content, events that they have held where they've shared information, events they've held where they've had us come out and table. So we're collecting sort of that data about how they're connecting with their community and what that reach looks like. They also provide us an evaluation on how they're feeling about the opportunity and what's working or what we might need to improve. And so we have just had our second quarter meeting. In the first quarter, in the first 4 months, that group of organizations, which are fairly small, they're on the smaller side of our local community organizations. They shared information at over 40 different events in 4 months. They reached more than 12,000 different email contacts and did a variety of posts and newsletters and repeat interaction. And during that same time, we also received invitations for our outreach team that has now been equipped with tablets and technology and materials in a variety of languages, brought out into community for 40 other events where we were connecting with community. So that outreach agreement pilot is proving to be a very effective way to get folks into accounts, to get them to understand what the access discount program is, have that discount set up on their account, teach them how to use registration. One of those organizations is Autism Society of Oregon, and through that relationship, we are now doing sensory-friendly swim times after hours in our pools, where we turn off the slide and turn off the noise-making functions of the building with the spray features and have smaller group access. We're also doing sensory-friendly tours of facilities so that that their communities can come in and see what the building is like during the day and where the areas are. And so that pilot has developed some very strong relationships with local partners and their communities, and has really, I think, been a exemplary opportunity that is low cost in the range of cost for what that is building. Those organizations also receive regular communications with us and flyers, employment opportunities, and the opportunity to meet with us and just share what they're interested in and what they think their community would like out of recreation. And we have made a lot of custom connections and opportunities through that. So I just wanted to highlight that opportunity first. That was one-time funding. So while there may be an opportunity for us to find small pockets of dollars to maybe offer 3 or 4 of those again next year, we're not yet including this opportunity in the Project Connect because we have not identified the funding to continue it. But we are hoping to find places and maybe even collaborate with other partners as we include part of that agreement is sharing employment information that maybe the workforce development team is willing to help add the opportunity to add another one of those agreements in the future. So you won't see the outreach agreements on the Project Connect handout, but hopefully that is something that we will be able to continue even if to a smaller degree into the future. So Project Connect, ultimately the goal is to connect community to services, and a lot of these opportunities are for community leaders and organizations to help make sure they're educated and have tools to share with their communities. There are some opportunities for community members to also get engaged. The Recreation Outreach Team is a small group of staff. We have an opportunity where community can request for us to come out to their events. And so we will come and table and bring handouts and materials. We do have them available in English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Russian, and Ukrainian. And so we bring out material and answer questions. We have technology. That has been a popular ask over the summer and into the fall. And we now have more than 90 organizations that have opted into our community network and said, we're interested in what you're doing and we want to receive resources from you and information. And so we do every couple of months send another reminder out to that group and say, hey, it's time to schedule your events and invite us out to your spaces with information. So we sort of have an ongoing cycle of events going on. This last weekend, the Indian Education Program with PPS invited the outreach team out to help sign up all the participants in their basketball tournament and meet with families. So we were doing that this last weekend. So the outreach team has been very, very busy out sharing information. We also have a variety of different partnership collaborations. You might be familiar with the Community Partnership Program that is run through our Community Engagement and Partnership Program. Megan Dirks and June Bass manage that, but our community centers are a great place for a lot of those partnerships to occur. So organizations apply and can request free space use of our facilities. They can also let us know if they have a skill or a service that we can purchase from them. So maybe they have someone who teaches a certain thing or a culturally specific program, or a training or something that would benefit community. And so we also collect a list of organizations that have a service agreement options that we might be able to enter into. And so there's a variety of new organizations that are utilizing space in our communities, free of charge for activities for their own community. And through that, we're also growing in partnerships where we're working with organizations to provide services to the parks community, but in collaboration. The Ukrainian Foundation and Molnomar Art Center have had a recent integration where they are offering art therapy in Ukrainian. It is open to not just the Ukrainian Foundation's community, but others. They provide an interpretation and some staff support, and our team provides instruction and space. And so there's collaborative efforts along those lines as well. One of the new things that we launched this August are the accommodation options and a little bit more clarity on them and some new pathways. So the city of Portland has an accommodation form and a process for requesting accommodation. Recreation has operated a separate process for requesting accommodation to participate in an activity. One of the things that we have discovered with registration is that it is a disadvantage if you need language access services, or if you need ADA accommodation during the time of registration, you are unlikely to be very successful at getting into a high demand program. And so in order to address that barrier, we created very specific and identified pathways to request support with the registration program process, not just participation in a program. And so we worked with 311. They were an amazing partner in that effort to create options that if folks do call through 311, then they will get routed to customer service center or to our inclusion services team within rec, and we can help folks get connected to get the tools that they need to be able to do the registration processes. So we've started to detail that in a different way and add new features to the accommodation options starting this August.
Thank you, Jamie.
Cover some of it.
It is a lot.
We did also fairly recently, we created the recreation services guide. So this is, I think we're looping around into the second year. Our activity catalog is 200 pages and it is a book. If you've seen it, it's not something people really want to pick up from an outreach event and carry around with them. So we worked with community partners and internal stakeholders to sort of identify really key information that would help new users understand what we offer. And so now we just have a little half-page, six-page takeaway that will help get folks to the web where things are very accessible for language access and Google Translate with more information.
Quick question, oh, sorry, anyone? Quick question from me. Do you mind pulling up that last slide again? The 14 organizations that you worked with, how helpful were you able to receive not just it went to this many emails, but what the click rate was? Like, were you able to see to measure its success?
We don't really have that kind of detail, and a lot of these are much smaller organizations, and so they probably would not consistently have access to the response rate of their emails. A lot of them are just sending an Outlook email, not using, right, like a paid for platform for that. And so we do have, they do submit individual, so we know how many times they send an email and how many emails they sent it to. We do ask them to send us that, so we know like the number of reach outs, but we don't know the specific follow-up action.
And you're not able to give a sort of marked link or something that you'd be able to see folks from that specific, organization ended up. Just wondering, tracking is like,
we're trying to figure out how to track our like drop-in handout sheets. The problem is it's manual, so you gotta rely on more than 200 different customer service staff that work out of 18 different facilities to remember to track it when it comes in. So we've been sort of trying to come up with recently there's a discussion about can we get a barcode on here so that it could just be scanned instead of it has to be tallied. So we're trying to find some ways to track when the materials go out, how they're coming in. But at the moment they go out and people come in.
Would you, you said there isn't necessarily money to do much with the, that 5,000. Is it something you would want to do again, or did you, it's hard to measure its success, but did you see enough that you would be interested in doing it?
Yeah, I think we think it has been pretty effective. We were still tallying the results from the second quarter, so we're still pretty early in it. And I'm with the budget authority I have, we'll be finding every $5,000 increment we can save from something else to do this. Like in our, my team coordinates the marketing for the recreation division. And so we could spend $30,000 on an iHeartRadio campaign, or I could spend $30,000 doing this with community organizations, connecting directly with community. So we'll be looking for ways that we can choose how the limited marketing funding that we have within our division. But this is proving to be a fairly effective way to connect with community that hasn't been connected before.
I'm guessing you're also doing paid advertising?
That's it.
Oh, that's
it. That's the paid advertising budget that we have is
Okay.
$30,000, which we've done and we've spent in a variety of ways over the years. The last couple of years, because we needed summer employment, we focused it towards that and worked with workforce development and other parts of the bureau to kind of pool some funds, but that's it. That's all we have.
30 grand for all of.
Recreations, paid advertising, yes.
That's fascinating.
But honestly, like, let's talk about demand, right? Like, we can't even meet the demand without even promoting it. You know, like, so it's kind of relative.
Yeah.
And so to Jamie's point, spending what funds are available on being really strategic and targeting community in this way is smart, because
It's not a big call.
Yeah, we actually don't promote a lot about programs because they're already fairly
they're
high demand.
overprescribed.
Yeah, so we are very specific about the programs we're advertising. We're using our email platforms and our social media to highlight the programs that are not at capacity. But we don't do a lot of swim lesson advertising or even day camp advertising. We used to, and I've been with recreation for 20 years. And we used to spend a lot more investment on marketing our summer camps and those kinds of things, but they're full. So we don't invest the money in the spaces where we don't have more room.
Samir.
So recognizing that you're in only the second quarter, at the end of the year, at that point, will there, this is sort of the next step after Ali's question, will there be data on whether the number of participants from the community served by the organization receiving the grant has gone up? So not about click-throughs or did they look at it, but did they actually participate in programs? And I'm not asking if you have it now because it seems premature, but is that something that can be there? And if not, is it possible to devote more money to fewer organizations to get that data from each?
The way that our systems work, there isn't anything in our registration system that will track that the reason they came to us was through an outreach agreement. We have stronger demographic data for those who have access discount. Not everyone we're reaching out to through these groups needs a discount or will use them, but a large quantity do, especially Home Forward is one of the groups we work with. So there's a little bit of information that kind of overlays with the use of access discount. Account information also asks the language that is spoken and written at home. So there is a way to look at what those response rates look like, but there isn't really a way to tie specifically. We went to the Indian education basketball tournament this Saturday, and we know how many of them are now participating with us. So there really isn't that strong of a thread tie. We do have the staff who work at each of these events. They fill out a survey at the end of their shift. They note demographic kind of information or the quantity of people. They also will tell us how many people they signed up for an access discount. So we will know loosely that 16 people at that event signed up for one, but we don't know which 16 people signed up for one.
Okay.
So it's not a tight thread.
That is helpful. And then my other question, you mentioned that most of the communication and conversation was about organizations and community leaders. Is that by design, or is there an intent to get to actually talking to community members rather than people or groups that may end up being gatekeepers?
Yes. So working with partners was by design, as like the Venn diagram of the fastest way to reach people is within a network that already exists. But we are actively right now working on public education events where you do not have to know a partner to know about it. We can advertise it. It is for us to tell the community where it is and when it is, and they can come. And so Sam Subedi is our outreach coordinator. He's currently working with libraries around town to find space that rotates month to month in different areas of town, different times, where our outreach team, the same folks that will bring the tablets and the information to a partner organization event, will come out to community and just be there to answer questions and help people connect. So we are sort of working to transition into that, like, you don't have to know somebody to know how to get to this information. But it is a little bit harder to do because you have to find a space that isn't burdened by us coming to it, or that it's not taking advantage of a relationship with a partner. So libraries seem to like to host and have events on their calendars. So we're hoping that that relationship will work out. The secondary, the next step beyond libraries is food pantries typically are very welcome to having resources available. And the food pantries that we have done outreach out have proven to be very effective because people wait in line for a long time. And so they are just right there, ready to sit and talk with you and take the time to set up the account and get the discount. And so we've seen a really high rate of people actually taking the action at the same time when we have tabled at food pantry spaces.
Meaning they actually come to the facility
Yeah.
and use the program.
Well, no, we know that they've done all of the work that it takes to get your account in the system and get a discount. It's like a 30-minute process to answer all the questions, especially if you've never been a user before, to walk through the account setup and which kind of discount do you want and how many members of your household need to have this applied, because we have to ask the same questions of every single person in the household. So it can take half an hour to intake a family. And so a food pantry, you're gonna be there in line for quite a while. And so a lot of times when we table, people take information. Sometimes they will stay and we can help them, but maybe one will do that. And then 5 or 6 or 10 will take information. So the food pantries, we've had a much deeper action rate for taking all of the steps in that process.
Any last questions? Corbin.
So thank you for this. Considering we're going to be coming into a different administration and Portland being a sanctuary city, how are you thinking about pivoting to reach immigrant communities in a way that their names are not listed, so they're not targeted in the future?
We don't track.
Yeah, we don't, yeah. I mean, we
There's
track it, but it's not public information.
But you are a government entity, and so that could be passed along to somebody else. So there is a list of names, correct, that identifies them somewhere.
List of names identified with what? Like the race and
The act-
ethnicity?
Well, you were able to give a percentages of how many were immigrants, and so is any of that information tracked in any way? My concern is a chilling or a trend where people may not feel welcomed to come out and seek out these opportunities because of their immigrant status.
I will say that in 2016, we stopped collecting this information for the very same reason.
Specific pieces of
Well, but for that exact reason. So
there's something in place in case things go awry, is what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, we can stop asking for the information and that's basically it, but Craig, I see you have your hand up, so maybe you have an answer to that question.
I was just gonna say, we don't ask about immigration status. We ask of how they identify racially or ethnically. So we don't have a list. We have names and how they identify, and that is uncomfortable for lots of folks. And we
And that's
identified
why it
that in
says-
16 and we identified again, but we don't have immigration status recorded.
Great, thank you so much for that.
That's why we have like 15% of people either decline to answer or, you know.
I just think that's important information for community members to know so they can, still seek out these services.
And it was 6:44, I'm waiting. I know, okay, is there anyone, there's no one available?
There's no one.
Well, that is the end of our.
Jamie, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Craig, for joining us, and Maximo.
Thank you very much for having us. Please, if you do know other organizations in the community that would like to sign up for our network, our little Project Connect flyer will take you right there.
And I guess we have to do a vote to adjourn early, is that right? Or we have to?
No, you don't.
Your chair. Wait.
So maybe it's like a branch from Corbin's question. It's been on my mind since last week. How is Parks operation in terms of community center be able to prepare the worst case scenario when there is the organized entry into our community centers and start taking people out. It's not our information that was distributed, it's just that there were other form of information tracking undocumented immigrants, users who are using our facility. And I don't know if we are a sanctuary facility or not, but the worst case scenario can be pretty ugly. And are we prepared when such ugly situation takes place? How are our staff or our facility be able to react appropriately? It's something that we cannot just pretend it's not gonna happen, but when it happens, are there ways that we know there's some protocols here? Close the door, or what are we supposed to do when ICE came in and then there's a family there, they just take them out?
Well, we would not be making those decisions in a silo as a bureau, as a recreation, as a community center. It's a much larger conversation. It's a citywide conversation. And I imagine if that started to become a threat, or that the city would have a much larger conversation about it. And likely, led by the Bureau of Emergency Management, and, it's a much larger conversation. So, we follow the lead of the city in terms of policy, and if our landscape got to that point, then we would be pulled in, and as city staff, whatever the city's leadership and however they want to handle something like that, we would implement, but yeah.
It's a collective planning.
Yeah, it would be a citywide conversation for sure. Because it wouldn't just be about parks by any stretch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn us 12 minutes early, so thank you, everybody. I'll use the couch.
Thank you.